Hi, I recently woke up craving for avrecado Akki Roti. Yes, I know that's a little oddly specific, but I also know that there is really no way I can source avrecado in Germany. So here's what I did. I made Akki Roti with edamame. It was a brilliant win, high protein, nourishing, filling, yada yada. So let's make Akki Roti with edamame today. I am using frozen edamame beans, and naturally I cooked the frozen edamame beans in my instant pot. I cooked it for 1 minute on high pressure. I allowed the cooking cycle to become complete, and once the cooking cycle completed, I did a gradual quick pressure release. So this is how the beans looked after they finished cooking in the instant pot. I allowed the beans to become a little warm to touch. Once they became warm to touch, I mashed them thoroughly using a potato masher. You can also use a spoon or a fork. And in case you have edamame beans with you, this is a fantastic alternative to pretty much any other bean in your pantry. You can make edamame bean kurma, edamame bean paratha, or you could even make edamame bean sundal. In case you want any one of these recipes, let me know in the comments and I will share them in my upcoming videos. So here's what I'm doing to the beans. I used a potato masher like I mentioned at the beginning, and I mashed them completely. This step is important because if you leave the beans slightly bigger, then making the dough becomes a little harder. Now that that is done, let's combine or mix the Akki Roti dough. I'm using just store-bought idiyappam flour today, but you could just use even regular rice flour. Even that works really well. 350 grams of idiyappam flour is what I used, and then I also added seasonings like cumin seeds, salt, red chili powder, sesame seeds, and green chilies. If you're making it for kids, maybe you could skip the green chilies and you could just use, just red chili powder, or you could even add green chili paste. But if you add green chili paste, please be a little careful because chili paste tends to be a little spicier or hotter than chopped green chilies. I went in with a spatula and mixed everything well so that the seasonings are evenly incorporated with the rice flour, and then I added ginger garlic paste along with unsweetened desiccated coconut. This is basically kopra or kobbari in Kannada. Once I added this, I also added some shredded carrots, finely chopped onions, and dill leaves because Akki Roti feels incomplete without dill leaves. All this went in along with the mashed edamame. In case you don't have dill leaves, you could also use spinach, drumstick leaves, or just keep it simple with cilantro and mint. Everything tastes so good in this Akki Roti. So this is the most important part of this recipe. Please be very careful when you're mixing the dough. If the dough is too stiff, you will land up with very dry Akki Rotis. And if the dough is too loose, then you may not be able to shape them well. So I first mixed up the vegetables and the rice flour mixture into a crumbly mixture, and then I started adding water gradually by half a cup every time I added water, and then I mixed it into a slightly loose dough. Imagine roti dough but slightly looser, something that you can spread easily using your hands on a sheet of paper or on a banana leaf. Another good example for this would be even adai batter, because we generally keep adai batter a little thick. So this is the consistency we are looking at. Please remember, onions, carrots both release water. So go easy on the water and make sure that the dough is slightly loose but it's not runny. In case you end up adding a little too much water and the dough becomes a little loose, then here's what you can do. You can adjust the consistency by adding quarter cup rice flour slowly and then mixing everything up well into a dough. But Please do not add more than quarter cup of rice flour, because then you will have to adjust the seasonings, salt, the spice levels, etc., etc. Right? So it's better to be careful with the dough at the very beginning of the recipe itself. I just wanted to show you all how to adjust the consistency, and which is why I made the dough a little loose on purpose. And this is what I did. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you can add quarter cup of rice flour and slowly adjust the consistency of the dough. You can now see how loose the batter is. It flows easily from your hands, and yet it is slightly thick. So this is the consistency you should be aiming for. I'm using a pre-cut parchment paper today to shape my roti, but you could also use a banana leaf. I've also seen people using Ziploc covers or aluminium foil, but I'm somehow not comfortable with this. So this is what I lean towards to normally. I'm taking about a big fat orange sized portion of dough, placing it on the middle of the parchment sheet after greasing it with a little bit of oil. Using wet hands, I shaped the dough into a slightly thick circle. My pre-cut parchment paper is about 8 inches in diameter, and I can say that my roti was also 8 inches because of this. At this point, I recommend that you aim for slightly thick rotis, maybe like parathas. Please don't make it too thick, because thicker rotis take a longer time to cook. As you're shaping the rotis, I recommend preheating a cast iron tawa, and once the tawa has heated up, you can transfer the shaped roti onto the tawa. You can see me doing this in the video, and then gently peel back the parchment paper away from the shaped roti. Now reduce the heat to low and cook on low heat by drizzling a couple of oil. Sorry, I made a mistake. By drizzling a few drops of oil around the edges of the roti and in the middle. When you cook on low flame, the result is evenly cooked, brilliant, slightly crispy, but soft enough rotis. If you cook them on high heat, they dry up faster. This is also one of the reasons I prefer to cook one side closed. This helps trap in the steam and retain the moisture of the rotis while they cook. So once you finish cooking one side, flip the roti and continue to cook the other side. A great sign to watch out for to know if your roti has cooked is that you should not be seeing any raw dough on the surface, and as and when the roti cooks, it develops a crispy edge and slightly golden brown spots here and there on the surface of the roti. So that's it. The Edamame Akki Roti is done, and I recommend serving this with a slightly sweet and coriander packed coconut chutney. This is my go-to with Akki Roti, but you could also serve it with badnekai palya or yengai, the typical Dharwad style side dish. Pretty much all of this work well with Akki Roti, and this is how my coconut chutney looks like. I'm adding some tempering. The tempering is pretty basic. I added mustard seeds, urad dal and curry leaves along with a pinch of hing to the tempering. Another thing that I wanted to mention but I forgot is that I used peanut oil to cook my Akki Roti, but you could also use any neutral vegetable oil or even coconut oil if you like the flavor. For me, this is my ideal Sunday breakfast. We indulge in this roti every now and then. It's slightly heavy on carbs, but we really like this roti, and of course, there has to be a dollop of butter on top of hot Akki rotis when it is being served on a Sunday morning. I would recommend enjoying this Akki roti with some masala chai or even filter coffee to get that complete feel of a Sunday morning. In case you like the recipe and you try it, don't forget to tag and share it with me on Tomato Blues. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all with another recipe next week. Till then, bye bye.